Okay, then I'm going to use just the last few minutes here to talk about a couple of kind of unique programs that I coordinate. One of them is literature and medicine. And we've talked just kind of briefly about having themed book discussions, whether it might be science fiction or mystery or something like that. This one is actually set at Fairfax Hospital, and it is open to only ANOVA employees. But the employees that come to this, which we meet 4 times during the year, are all walks of the medical community, from doctors and nurses to x-ray techs to the administrative people that work in some of the offices. And we have a pretty large group, between 25 and 28, that are coming to a program. It's funded by the hospital's foundation. We do pay a facilitator to lead the discussion. All the books are medical themed books, but we try to do fiction. They love nonfiction, but you can imagine why that group probably would. So that's why we encourage them to do fiction. It's sort of the idea of bringing the humanities into the healthcare profession. And the foundation pays for dinner because all of them are coming literally right from work. They eat dinner while they discuss. And we run just a little over an hour, although it's very difficult to get them out in an hour. You'd be amazed, not a single beeper goes off. Nobody gets up and leaves the room. I mean, it really is a group of people that have decided this is important enough to turn off their beeper when they walk into the room. So that has been extremely rewarding. We've done it for 6 years now. And my list is just some of the favorites that we've used. It's, as you can imagine, there's lots and lots of medical books, but they don't really just want to be reading, you know, they're not going to read some of the ones that are, you know, Robin Cook type books, because all they would do is pick apart all of the medical things that happen. So it really is trying to get them to think about things from a patient perspective, or, you know, something like that. It's been very rewarding. The other one that we started a year ago is Changing Lives Through Literature. It's actually based on a program out of the University of Massachusetts, and it's taking, in our case, juveniles that are arrested and come in front of an intake officer and normally would be sentenced to community service, whether that's picking up trash or maybe, you know, doing something in the library, whatever it might be. They are instead sort of assigned to a book group. And they're 10-week sessions. They get to keep the book. Again, we hire a facilitator, and they have to successfully complete the program in order to fulfill their community service requirement and not end up in front of a judge. So if, for instance, they came to the first 2 and didn't come anymore, they do end up going in front of a judge. So there are consequences for not fulfilling this. We have an intake officer that is there and an active participant in the discussions. Everybody has an equal voice, basically, at the table. And there's some journal writing that goes along with that. For the adults, we're doing that too, and it comes out of the probation and parole office, and they're in a life skills class that goes on for a year as part of their parole. And this is one little 12-week session of that. Again, it's just like being on parole, probation, whatever you want to. If you don't finish it, you have not, you know, fulfilled your part of probation or parole. We have completion ceremonies at the end. Judges come to the completion ceremonies. So there's a lot of, the authoritative figures, though, are viewed as equals, and everybody's opinion matters. So that's one of the programs we're working on, too. Both of those we've gotten grant funding for. We've had some friends that have underwritten some of the sessions. But I do want to talk just a little bit about what that means to hire a facilitator, because we have talked here mostly about staff, library staff running the groups. And we have a couple of different programs running with facilitators in our libraries. We're doing a great books club that meets similar to the model that you all know, but we have hired a facilitator to do that because we really felt, and this friends group that underwrote it really felt it was important. If you're bringing that type of literature in, you obviously, not that we don't have trained staff that can do that, I don't mean to imply that at all, but it is time consuming. And you do want a good discussion leader, and you want one very well versed in maybe English literature or something like that. So we have hired a facilitator to do that. We have some great facilities, all of us around here, educational facilities, that, you know, the community colleges, George Mason, you know, so many wonderful professors that are willing to do these kinds of things for a relatively modest amount of money. So I encourage you that if you have a supportive friends group, or you might consider a grant or something like that, to hire a facilitator that does bring another level, another layer kind of to your discussion. So it's something to certainly explore. And as you all know, there are lots of grants out there. I mean, ALA's Let's Talk About It series has been around forever, and they're always having grant deadlines out there. I just got something about their new one. You know, they have different topics. And while the money is, you know, $3,000 or something like that, it certainly helps you to go down the street and hire someone to come in and do your book group. The other thing that I think almost all of us do too are the One Book, One Community groups, which, you know, really came out of Seattle and Nancy Pearl. And whether you are or not doing that, in a way, it's a giant book discussion group. You're encouraging everybody in your community to read the same book at the same time, and then maybe hosting smaller book discussions along the way, or other types of programming. But that is a big book discussion group that many of you are doing already. So I want to leave time for your questions. Are there other things that we maybe didn't mention that you are wondering about? Yes?
Yeah, I had a question about what types of books do we select for the juvenile offenders?
Well, it's been very interesting, actually. For the boys group recently, we've used Touching Spirit Bearer by Mickelson, which, you know, has the circle justice, and, you know, this boy really does act out in high school, and he just keeps getting more and more violent, and eventually they take him to the wilderness in Alaska and you know, kind of make him learn about himself to be better with others. We've used that book for them. For the juvenile girls, we've used the book Speak, and it's about a young girl who's raped at a party. She calls the police, and by the time they come, she no longer tells what happened, she just leaves. And little by little, she withdraws into herself and stops talking to anybody. And it's an art teacher that pulls her back out. And we sort of talk about the things that, you know, happen to these kids along the way, and what could they have done, how would it help them to be able to talk to somebody about what happened, the choices you make, that kind of thing. For the adult men right now, we have a group running, and we just finished A Hole in My Life by Gantos. And they started Nick Arvin's Articles of War.
Could I
Yes.
just clarify, for the young people's groups, the young offenders, do you hire facilitators, did I understand?
Yes, that is, yes we do. Although, like I go, the probation officer or intake officer is there, and we literally are all around the table together, all sharing our own thoughts. So it's not just the leader that's leading the discussion. But yes, we hire somebody. Any other questions or comments? Well, good luck with your new book discussion groups that I'm sure you'll be starting. And if you have any questions, we'll be sticking around for a little bit. Thank you so much.